People always say that lies fall apart eventually. I never believed that, not until I watched one tiny mistake destroy the perfect life my husband had spent years building. If someone had asked me a year earlier whether I trusted Daniel, I would have laughed. Trust him, I trusted him with everything. My heart, my future, my family. We had been married for almost 4 years. Everyone thought we were the perfect couple. Our friends called us relationship goals. My parents adored him. Even my younger sister said she wished she could find someone as caring as Daniel. And honestly, so did I. Every morning he kissed me before work. Every evening he asked about my day. He never forgot birthdays, never raised his voice, never acted suspicious. At least, that's what I thought. The strange part is that people expect betrayal to arrive with warning signs. Late-night phone calls, secret messages, cold behavior, but real betrayal doesn't always knock before entering your life. Sometimes, it smiles at you every morning. It tells you it loves you. It asks what you want for dinner. That Monday started like every other day. Daniel left the apartment around 8. He kissed my forehead. I'll be home early tonight. I smiled. I'll cook your favorite. He grinned. I married the right woman. I watched him leave. If only I had known those words would replay in my head hundreds of times. Because that evening, he never came home. Around 6 o'clock I called him. No answer. 7 o'clock. Still nothing. 8. His phone went straight to voicemail. I started worrying. Maybe he'd had an accident. Maybe something happened at work. Then at 8:47, my phone buzzed. A text. Not from Daniel. From an unknown number. It contained only one sentence. Your husband is not where you think he is. No name. No explanation. No photo. Just those words. I stared at the screen for nearly 5 minutes. Was someone playing a joke? A scam. I almost deleted it. Then another message arrived. Look closely at the photo he posts tonight. That was all. No more messages. My hands suddenly felt cold. Around 10 o'clock Daniel finally came home. I'm so sorry, he said before I could ask anything. We had an emergency meeting. He looked tired. His tie was loose. His voice sounded believable. Everything about him felt normal, except one thing. He hugged me with only one arm while quickly placing his phone face down on the kitchen counter. That tiny movement stayed in my mind. Not because it proved anything. Because it was different. For the first time in 4 years. Something felt off. I told myself I was imagining things. Until the next morning, Daniel uploaded a smiling selfie from his office. His caption read, "Long hours, but worth it." Most people would have scrolled past it. I almost did too. Then I remembered the anonymous message. Look closely at the photo. I zoomed in. Nothing unusual. His smile, his suit, his office window, coffee cup, laptop. Then, near the edge of his watch, I noticed something almost invisible. A reflection. Someone else's hand, not mine. A woman's hand, bright red nails, resting on his shoulder. The photo had been cropped carefully. But whoever took it forgot about the tiny reflection in the glass. One tiny mistake, one reflection, one secret beginning to crack. At that moment, I realized I wasn't looking at a random accident. I was looking at the first loose thread in a lie that had fooled everyone. And once you pull the first thread, the entire story begins to unravel. I couldn't stop staring at that reflection. Maybe it meant nothing. Maybe it was just a coworker standing nearby. That was the story I wanted to believe. But deep down, my heart already knew something my mind refused to accept. I looked at Daniel across the breakfast table the next morning. He smiled. Everything okay? I forced a smile back. Just didn't sleep well. He reached across the table and squeezed my hand. You work too hard. The irony almost made me laugh. Or cry. After he left for work, I opened the photo again. This time I noticed something else. Behind him was a cafe logo reflected in the window. It definitely wasn't near his office. I searched the name online. The cafe was nearly 40 minutes away. Why would he be there during an emergency meeting? I still wasn't ready to accuse him. I needed proof. That afternoon, I quietly drove to the cafe. I ordered a coffee and sat near the window. For nearly an hour, nothing happened. I started feeling embarrassed. Maybe I had imagined everything. Maybe I was becoming paranoid. Then the front door opened. Daniel walked in. He wasn't alone. A woman followed him. She laughed at something he whispered. He smiled the same smile he always gave me. They sat only a few tables away. I couldn't hear every word. But I didn't need to. The way they looked at each other said enough. She reached for his hand. He didn't pull away. Instead, he held it. My heart felt like it stopped. For a moment I wanted to stand up. I wanted to ask him one simple question. Why? But anger without proof would only give him a chance to lie. So I stayed where I was. Quiet, watching, listening. When they left, I waited several minutes before following. They walked down the street together. Then Daniel hugged her. Not a friendly hug. The kind of hug you save for someone who means everything to you. I felt my eyes fill with tears. But I refused to let them fall. Not yet. That night, Daniel came home carrying flowers. My beautiful wife deserves these. I looked at the flowers. The same hands that had held another woman were now handing them to me. He acted as if nothing had happened. As if I hadn't watched him with my own eyes. That's when I understood something important. He wasn't just hiding the truth. He had become comfortable living inside a lie. Over the next week, I stayed silent. Not because I was weak. Because I was patient. People reveal far more when they think they're safe. Daniel became careless. He smiled at his phone more often. He stepped outside to answer calls. He started mentioning late meetings almost every other day. Each excuse sounded practiced. Each lie came too easily. Then, another message arrived from the same unknown number. I think you deserve the whole truth. Attached was a photo. Daniel, standing beside the same woman. But this picture was different. They weren't leaving a cafe. They were standing outside an apartment building. His arm was around her shoulder. Both of them were smiling at the camera. The date in the corner shocked me. The photo had been taken almost 8 months earlier. 8 months. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't something new. It had been happening while we celebrated birthdays. While we visited my parents. While we talked about buying our first house together. Everything suddenly felt fake. Who sent these pictures? Why were they helping me? And how much more didn't I know? I replied to the number. Who are you? Several minutes passed. Finally, a reply appeared. I'm someone he lied to as well. I froze. What did that mean? Was she another woman? A coworker? Someone from his past? Before I could ask another question, a final message appeared. If you really want the truth, meet me tomorrow at 3 p.m. Come alone. I stared at the address on my screen. This was the moment everything could change. Either I'd finally learn the truth, or I'd discover my life had been built on nothing but carefully planned lies. I took a deep breath, deleted my tears, and decided, tomorrow, I would finally meet the person who knew the real Daniel. The next afternoon, I arrived at the small coffee shop 15 minutes early. My heart wouldn't stop racing. I kept asking myself one question. Who was I about to meet? At exactly 3 o'clock, a woman walked through the door. She looked around nervously before making eye contact with me. She smiled politely and walked over. Emma, I nodded. You must be the one who sent the messages. She sat down slowly. My name is Claire. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. Then she took a deep breath. I'm sorry. Those 2 words caught me off guard. Sorry for what? She looked down at her coffee. For believing his lies, just like you did. My stomach tightened. Claire explained that she had met Daniel almost a year ago. He told her he was divorced. He said his marriage had ended because his wife no longer loved him. He even claimed they were only waiting for legal paperwork to be finalized. Everything he told her sounded believable. I had no reason to doubt him, she whispered. He never wore his wedding ring when we were together. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Daniel hadn't just lied to me. He had built an entirely different life for someone else. Claire reached into her purse and placed several printed photos on the table. My hands shook as I picked them up. There was Daniel celebrating birthdays, weekend trips, restaurant dinners, holiday decorations. He looked genuinely happy in every picture. It was like watching someone else's husband. Then Claire showed me something even more shocking. A small velvet box. Inside was a beautiful engagement ring. My heart nearly stopped. He asked me to marry him 3 weeks ago, she said quietly. He said he wanted to start a new life together. I couldn't breathe. The same week Daniel had been talking to me about renovating our kitchen. He had been planning a future with another woman. Claire wasn't angry anymore. She looked heartbroken. I only discovered the truth because I accidentally saw your photo. She explained that Daniel had received a phone notification while they were having dinner. For just 1 second, my smiling face appeared on his screen. When she asked who I was, he quickly locked his phone. His answer didn't make sense. That's when she started searching. Piece by piece, the truth came out. Marriage records, photos, social media posts, everything. She had discovered me, and instead of staying silent, she chose to tell me. For the first time since all of this began, I realized Claire wasn't my enemy. She was another victim. Daniel had fooled both of us. We sat there for hours comparing stories. The more we talked, the more impossible it became to ignore the pattern. Every business trip, every late meeting, every missing weekend, every excuse. He had carefully divided his time between 2 completely different lives. Neither of us knew the other existed. It was almost impossible to believe. Claire looked at me and asked softly, "What are you going to do?" I stared out the window. A week earlier, I would have screamed. I would have confronted him immediately. But not anymore. Now I wanted the truth. The complete truth. And I wanted him to expose himself. Not because I shouted, but because he believed he could keep lying forever. So we made a plan. Neither of us would confront him. Not yet. Instead, we would let him continue pretending. People who think they're getting away with something become careless. And Daniel was already making mistakes. We started collecting everything. Screenshots, photos, dates, receipts, messages, every piece of the puzzle. Within 2 weeks, the picture became crystal clear. He had lied about work trips. He had used a second phone. He even rented a small apartment using a friend's address. Everything had been carefully planned. Everything, except one tiny detail, his confidence. He believed nobody would ever compare stories. He believed both of us trusted him too much to ask questions. That confidence became his biggest weakness. One evening Claire called me. I think it's time. I looked at the growing folder of evidence on my dining table. Every page represented another lie. Another promise broken. Another moment stolen. I closed the folder slowly. "No," I replied. "Not yet. If we're going to end this, we're going to do it in a way he'll never forget." And for the first time since discovering the truth, I wasn't thinking about revenge. I was thinking about justice. The kind of justice that doesn't require shouting. Only the truth. And soon, Daniel's perfect world was about to fall apart because of the very lies he believed nobody would ever uncover. Over the next few days, Claire and I spoke almost every evening. It still felt strange. A month earlier, we didn't even know each other existed. Now we were the only 2 people who truly understood the same painful story. We weren't planning revenge out of anger anymore. We were planning to make sure the truth could never be twisted. Because we both knew Daniel. If we confronted him privately, he would deny everything. He would invent another excuse. Another story. Another lie. So we decided on something different. We would let him tell his own lies one final time. Then we would quietly reveal the facts. No shouting. No drama. Just the truth. The opportunity came sooner than we expected. Daniel called me one evening with excitement in his voice. "My company is hosting a celebration this Saturday," he said. "I'd love for you to come." I almost smiled. He had no idea Claire had received an invitation to a different celebration on the exact same evening. 2 events, same hotel, same time, 2 completely different stories. His biggest mistake wasn't cheating. It was believing he could keep 2 worlds apart forever. Saturday arrived. I spent nearly an hour getting ready. Not because I wanted to impress him. Because I wanted to walk into that room with confidence. When I reached the hotel ballroom, Daniel greeted me with his usual warm smile. There you are, he said. I've been looking everywhere. He introduced me to several coworkers. Everyone smiled. Everyone believed we were the happy couple they had always known. Meanwhile, Claire waited quietly in another part of the hotel. Exactly as we had planned. Daniel kept disappearing every few minutes. Each time he returned, he made another excuse. I need to check on something. I forgot an important call. I'll be right back. He thought no one noticed. But I did. At exactly 7:30, Claire sent me one message. Ready. I looked across the room. Daniel was laughing with a group of coworkers. Completely relaxed. Completely confident. He believed he controlled every part of the story. I replied with one word. Yes. A few moments later, Claire walked into the ballroom. Daniel saw her immediately. The smile disappeared from his face. His expression changed so quickly that even the people standing beside him noticed. For a second, nobody moved. Then Claire calmly walked toward us. She wasn't angry. She wasn't shouting. She simply stopped beside me. Daniel looked from her to me, then back again. His face turned pale. Claire, what are you doing here? Before she could answer, I spoke. I was about to ask you the same question. The room suddenly felt silent. Several coworkers glanced toward us. Daniel forced a nervous laugh. This is just a misunderstanding. I looked at him quietly. Really? He nodded too quickly. She's just a client. Claire smiled sadly. A client. She reached into her purse and placed the engagement ring box on the nearby table. You gave me this 3 weeks ago. Daniel didn't say a word. I opened my handbag and placed our wedding photo beside it. His coworkers stared in complete silence. One of them whispered, "Wait, what's going on?" Daniel tried one last time. I can explain. I shook my head. No, you've been explaining for almost a year. It hasn't been the truth. Claire gently placed several printed photographs on the table. Weekend trips, restaurant dinners, holiday pictures. Then I placed my own photos beside hers. Birthdays, family gatherings, wedding anniversaries, 2 separate lives, side by side. Nobody needed another explanation. The evidence spoke for itself. One coworker quietly walked away. Another lowered his head. No one defended Daniel, because there was nothing left to defend. For the first time since I had met him, he had no story left to tell. No clever excuse, no perfect smile, only silence. He looked at me. I'm sorry. Those words might have meant something months earlier. Now, they sounded empty. You weren't sorry when you lied, I said calmly. You were only sorry when the lies stopped working. Claire nodded quietly. Neither of us wanted revenge anymore. We wanted peace, and peace begins when the truth no longer hides. I took off my wedding ring, placed it beside the engagement ring, then looked directly at Daniel one last time. You fooled everyone. I paused, until one tiny mistake exposed the truth. Without another word, Claire and I turned around and walked out together. Neither of us looked back. Because some chapters don't deserve another page. They simply deserve an ending.